Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Effect. Just a reminder and a quick plug: we do have a free Discord. We also have a Patreon starting at $5 a month. I think it's worth it. There's a lot of good content. There's a really good community you can join and be a part of. Um, Also, just thank you for watching the YouTube channel or listening to the podcast if that's where you're at. Uh, it would be a big help if you liked, subscribed, give us a review if you're on Apple Podcasts, that sort of thing. Um, that said, we just had the combine this last week, so we thought, what better time than to do our first rookie mock draft of the season after the combine, kind of see how the board shakes up. I didn't come away with like super different impressions of any of the players necessarily. I know there's a couple risers of guys who like ran really fast or that sort of thing, but I kind of view a lot of the guys a similar way. I kind of expected some of them to
Yeah.
run how they did. When we got a little bit of news too, Holler, your Rams got some help today. That had to felt good. You guys have a defense. I'd
Yeah.
love it if my team had a defense for once. Maybe
So
someday, but yeah,
life's been pretty busy for me recently. Baby can come any day, and then on top of that, my wife's sick. So unfortunately,
that's
but just been
unfortunate.
busy. But I was so stoked to see that about the trade. You know, McDuffie is very very good, right?
Mhm.
And that was a big need for them. Like they have okay guys back there, but that was a big need, right? And so I think one of the biggest things people probably don't think about is that now that 13th pick, I think they can position themselves to kind of pick whatever they want, really. There's not
Mhm.
too much of a need, in my opinion. I could say there's a need a lot of different places, but there's not a like glaring hole now. And that defense is impressive. And so looking at a little bit more kind of cool things is that last time they did like a blockbuster trade was for Stafford, and that was the year that the Super Bowl was in SoFi. This year's in SoFi again coming up. They did another trade, so we'll see. There's a big difference between like positioning yourself into be a Super Bowl contender and then actually getting there. So not getting too excited, but I was very stoked with the trade.
I'm not getting too excited, but already buying Super Bowl tickets. I'm with you.
Exactly. Yep.
No, I like
No,
it. Yeah, dude, McDuffie should be good. I thought the compensation was fine, and the fact that they had a second first round pick already, I
yeah.
think that makes a ton of sense. There's
And
a lot of quarterback. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it probably doesn't look too good on the Chiefs side, right? They probably got basically back a little bit extra for what they paid for. I
Yeah,
think he was drafted in the back end, mid to
yeah.
end back end of the first anyway. So, but I think biggest thing they were gonna have to pay him. They have to pay a lot of guys, right? And so I think their cap isn't in a good spot. So that's just sometimes what you have to do. I think the window for the Chiefs has closed very quickly.
It definitely has. Although I think anytime they have Mahomes on the roster, I think the window
Yes.
is at least a little bit open.
Yep.
Um, so there are some news in terms of quarterbacks getting released. We're going to go into that more next time. Next week we'll have the legal tampering period for free agency starts on Monday, and then guys can officially sign on Wednesday. So we'll kind of cover a little bit more there, just to kind of a quick highlight. Like guys like Kirk Cousins are getting released. Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, all kind of expected to be on the move. Daniel Jones got the transition tag, so he'll be back in Indianapolis, which probably means Alec Pierce is going to be out testing the free agent market. There's a lot of running backs going to be on the moves. A lot of rumors going around, nothing concrete, but next week should be pretty crazy. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, there's some good signings and guys go to good places for fantasy. For dynasty rosters, but we'll see. I think that's one of my favorite parts of
Oh
dynasty
yeah.
playing dynasty is free agent period and like having guys in your roster that you're like hoping get a value spike and don't go somewhere bad, but it adds a little bit more excitement to the offseason, I think.
Totally. I'm not surprised by any of the like rumors, right? I knew pretty sure that Kyler was going to get cut and Tua most
Hmm.
likely, right? And so, you know, um, nothing really surprising there. And so I do think though, Tua people like guys like Tua and Kyler can spike in value a little bit, but for
I
me, I
think
just
so.
kind of know what both of they are, right? And so, I'm just cautious to go out and buy. If I have them though, and they go to a good team, I might move them, but it just depends. I think the value is still pretty low on both of them.
I think The one I could talk myself into a little bit is Kyler if he ends up in Minnesota. For the same reasons I like JJ McCarthy, it's like if he could pull his head out of his butt and just actually just be a good because like on the football field he's fine, right? It's just all the
Yep.
off the stuff. So hopefully this is kind of like the kick in the butt that he needs. Tua is interesting too. If he goes somewhere with like a good offensive line and good receivers, I could see that being okay. But we'll see. I mean, and we can kind of talk about next week when we know where they go instead of just kind
Yeah.
of guess. Um, Getting into the mock draft. So the kind of the game plan we have here is we're gonna kind of go back and forth, alternating picks. The scoring setup we kind of are assuming here is on the chart there. It's super flex, PPR, 2 point tight end premium. We are going to kind of talk about as I'm working under assumption that we're drafting kind of pre NFL draft. So like think about it if you have a dynasty rookie draft before the NFL draft, you can kind of this is kind of how the mindset we're going to kind of be in here. We're going to talk a little bit about like oh maybe what are some of the other like bets around these players too, so we can kind of give I have Fantasy Calc pulled up. So we'll look at kind of like 101, 102, exactly, and kind of give some examples of kind of who's right around them. We can kind of talk about, whether we want them or not, kind of a little bit about how they did at the combine, general thoughts on the player. But that was a lot of words. Holler, you
I
got
love it.
when I flipped a coin, you came up with a 101. So why don't you get us kicked off?
You got it. Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say I didn't get to watch a ton of the combine, but I just felt like this year it could be just my mindset going into it, right? I just didn't feel like there was many like there was no like risers really, right? There was a couple guys like, that did really well, Sadiq, but like these people I kind of knew were gonna do well, right? I just felt
Mhm.
like there wasn't really and probably was more of just my mindset going in of like, okay, I'm not really gonna react to any of these like fast 40s or whatever, right? Even the gauntlet, right? It was pretty good, right? But there wasn't really anything that really stood out. I didn't watch a ton of them, but there were, some. So,
I thought
you know,
Concepcion's gauntlet was pretty good. I thought he
yeah,
did pretty
yeah,
well.
yep. And
Um,
like I said, tried my best not to like adjust to just what they did there, but like someone like him, kind of more like firmed up some of the like question marks. Do I want to keep them where I have them ranked, right? So, but yeah, easy
for sure.
enough. I'm going Jeremiah Love. Uh, Pretty 101 locked in, right? I don't really think there's anything that's going to change that.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
he looked outstanding at the combine from what I saw, like, you know, as advertised.
Yeah, I think, he put to bed any speed questions. He ran like a 4.36, I wanna say. He also he stood after and he ran wide receiver drills for teams that asked him to do that. So, like, he just I don't know, dude. He's everything you could want and more, I feel like as a player.
Spanky's in
He
love.
yeah, he's my boy. No, but like I think that really just cements like by 9 at the absolute latest, I think is where he's gonna be gone. Like I've
Yes.
seen some talk about him going potentially as high as 3 to Tennessee. I think the Giants at 5 make a lot of sense. They could kind of pair him with Scatabo and kind of have a run heavy offense, which I know John Harbaugh would love to do. That kind of reminds me a little bit of like for some of you who have been watching for a while, like Ahmad Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs back in the Giants days with Eli Manning. A little bit of thunder and lightning. I think that could be kind of cool. But yeah, dude, Jeremiah Love's going to be awesome. Uh, Interestingly enough, so 101 is paired right next to two guys that I think are interesting. One is Ashton Genty and one is CD Lamb. And I want to ask you, who would you rather have out of those? Jeremiah Love or CD or Jeremiah Love and Ashton Genty?
That's hard. I'm gonna go CD, Jeremiah
Ooh,
Love, and then Ashton Genty.
okay.
Just
Okay.
because, right? Like, I feel like I know exactly what I'm going to get from CD Lamb, right? There's a little bit of up and down there, but I just know, I know obviously some, one argument would be he's a little bit older, whatever. Like, he signed, he's good to go. Like, he's, connected with Dak for, at least another year, hopefully longer. And, we kind of know as long as Dak is healthy, we know what we're going to get there. And just because I also like wide receivers more than running backs. I feel like the value holds a lot better than running backs do. But
Sure.
I'm if I get around to, which I will, but when I do my general rankings overall, I would have Jeremiah Love over Ashton Genty.
Yeah, I think right now they're tiered together for me, but I think if I had to pick between the two, I would probably take Love. It's worth noting too, Jeremiah Love is the only prospect in this year's class that scored a double elite on our Fez scores, which for some context, that is a prospect score, which is just their pure production, just who they are as a player, and then also the second score is when you factor in draft capital. So he's the only one that got double elite status there, so he is pretty clear the 101 for me. Okay, so 102. If I'm on the clock right now, I think my pick might be different than when after the draft
Really?
happens, when I can see where some of the wide receivers land. And the reason I say that is I'm going to take Fernando Mendoza at 102, just because I know where he's going. He's going to Las Vegas, who I do think has a good plan in place. I think Daniel Jeremiah talks a lot about young quarterbacks and the three P's. It's play caller, protection, and playmakers. I think the Raiders have two of the three, and I think they have a plan to attack the offensive line in the free agency. And I think at this point, Mendoza, he's just I don't see a path where he fails. He may not be more than like a high end QB2 for fantasy, but like that's okay. And if you get 5+ years from a quarterback that gives you QB2 value, I think that's all you can ask for. I think he's probably one of the safer prospects at this point in time. Yeah, I know that might be a little bit of a surprise. I don't know if that surprised you, me going Mendoza over one of the wide receivers.
I actually was more surprised that would change your mind like once the draft happened, right? Like I felt like maybe now you could be like, well, I can argue Tate maybe is a better prospect, or Lemon, or whatever, right?
Sure.
But I'm pretty comfortable now at 102, right? Like, I'm gonna just be like Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza at 102 there, because like you said, I just think he could fail, of course, but I think he's at least going to be a serviceable QB2, right? Kind of like a Kirk Cousins, a Matt Ryan type. I think Matt Ryan I saw a couple times as a comp. So like I think that would be great. Like, not outstanding for fantasy, but they're usable, right? So love it. 103 here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have anything else for
I was just gonna say 102 or Trevor Lawrence. They're back to back right now.
I'll take Trevor Lawrence. I think he had a good enough year last year. They still have, Hunter, whatever they want to do with him. I think obviously Brian Thomas Jr. will bounce back. So easy.
I think so too. I would take T-Law as well. I was just curious your thoughts. All right, 103's
Carnell Tate. This may surprise people because I've come out and said I like Lemon, right? And this isn't the change from how he responded in his interview. I think Tate is a better wide receiver, right? A little better profile, and I still think there's a few not big enough for me to worry about, but like some still question marks, right? I think if you think about his lazy comp of Amon-Ra St. Brown was drafted in the 4th round versus the 1st round, right? But that's just, I think, now where we are these days, right? So Carnell Tate for me.
Yeah, my only concern with Carnell Tate is that I think he's going to be one of the first ones off the board, which unfortunately might mean he goes to a worse team. I would actually love it if he went to like Tennessee at 4. I think that would make a ton of sense. With Cam Ward, give him a nice big weapon to go, or 5 to the Giants to play opposite of Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
I think that'd be awesome for Tate. I don't know if he's going to quite go that high. I saw there's a lot of talk on Twitter about how Carnell Tate ran a 4.54, and then there was debate. Like, I saw Schefter was getting into it with someone about like, oh, a bunch of scouts hand timed him in like the 4.4s, and to me, like I think that the 4.54, like honestly, that's fine enough.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's like what JSN ran. I think he ran like a 4.51, and like he was the best wide receiver in the league this year. So I'm not going to take too much stock in the 4.5 time. I think he's playing fast enough, especially if you watch him play. I think he's fast enough. Like I'm not scared at all about that.
Yep, I'm spot on there, right? I think we've seen it year after year with those Ohio State wide receivers, right? I mean, the only ones that are struggling are the ones with QB issues, right? Garrett Wilson comes to mind, and so even Chris Olave would be even better if he had a little bit more stable quarterback situation. So, I feel like I overlooked a little bit of Ibuka last year. I know he tailed off not quite as good, but I just think Ohio State wide receivers, it just year after year they pump them out.
If
Gotta believe in it.
if you're gonna helmet scout, that's probably the school to do it for.
Yes.
Um, funny you mentioned Olave, Olave or the 103.
I'll take the 103. I feel like it's kind of like a re-roll on these two wide receivers. You can get
I think I would
Tate
too.
or
Yeah.
Lemon. So, not to say I don't like Olave, but I still have question marks about the quarterback in New Orleans. So,
I agree.
of course, the other two don't have a team, but
Definitely. All right. So that makes my pick easier. I was just going to take the whichever one you didn't take. Makai Lemon and Carnell Tate. They view them very similarly. I know there was some weird stuff in the combine about Makai Lemon and how he answered questions and he bombed interviews. I think it's a lot to do about nothing. We heard reports last year about Ted McMillan too at the combine, not necessarily interviewing all that well, and someone still took him at 12. So like, I don't think this is gonna drop his draft capital at all. I think Makai Lemon's he's a really good player. I don't have any concerns about him. I think he can play. I was happy to see he came in at he was listed at 5'11. He came in right at 5'11, which is nice. I think he can play outside. I know he played primarily in the slot at USC. I think he has the skill set to play outside as well. I think he's just a good player, man. And this is kind of where I feel like this is where the draft starts to get dicey is after this pick. Because this is where these are the guys I feel the best about, and then it starts
yep.
getting there's some question marks and some warts on some of these guys after this. But Makai Lemon at 104 is pretty locked and loaded.
Yeah, I'm 100% there. I think it's just overblown, right? Like they're trying to find something to talk about. Yes, he was a little bit weird in his interviews. Okay, the videos we saw, pretty weird. But yeah, whatever, right? I don't think if you just watch him play and if you look at the stats and year over year he got better. I don't think this is really going to drop him at all. And if it does, I think maybe there's no way he gets past the Rams at 13, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think worst case, the further down the draft board he gets, he just goes to a better team. So it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world if he falls a little bit. I think he would do really well in Minnesota with Addison and Jefferson and hopefully they have a quarterback. I think he'd do well in Carolina too, playing next to Coker and McMillan. Assuming Bryce Young can deliver the ball consistently, I think he would do well there. But
yeah, and I think there's a lot of spots, right? So even if he does get past the Rams, right, and I kind of homerism right there, but I just think
I think he'd do well in LA too.
Exactly like you said. I think the further he gets down the board, it's actually better for him, right? So here nothing crazy. I'm going to go Sadiq. I just think yes, we're doing post combine, so he had a great combine, whatever. But this is kind of I think either I just told you before the show or whatever last week. This is if I would have had an update before the combine, I would have put Sadiq at 5, and that didn't change anything for me in here. So I think Sadiq, I don't think he's going to go out of the first round. And I think for me there, I just think at 5, I feel like that's the next best sure player.
I like Sadiq a lot. I had him right here at 5 before the combine, and that was before. So he ran a 4.39, I think. He came in, his height, weight measurables came in right about what he was listed at Oregon, which I was a little concerned about because Oregon generally over heightens and overweighs their guys. Troy Franklin comes to mind. But no, he came in kind of right at what he was listed at. Crazy how fast he was actually for how big he is. That was actually quite insane. And for tight ends too, there actually is a pretty decent correlation between the RAS scores and their production. Let me ask you this: would you rather take Sadiq, or if I offered you Tucker Kraft straight up, what would you do?
It's hard. Ooh, I'll be fun. I'll take Sadiq. Right.
Yeah, you will.
I just think it's tough to come back from ACLs, right? Especially bigger tight ends. We've seen it with TJ Hawkinson. Just since that injury hasn't been the same. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Tucker Kraft, but Green Bay is busy, right? There's a lot of wide receivers, a lot of people there trying to get the ball. Obviously, Sadiq doesn't have a team yet, so he could end up in a very busy situation as well. But for me, I just think Sadiq is good enough that it's kind of like a re-roll. And I'll just take the younger player that's not had an ACL.
No, totally fair. And I think there's some pretty exciting landing spots for Sadiq. I've heard Philadelphia
Yeah,
at 23. I've heard San Francisco at 27. Denver at 30 would all be awesome spots. We'll see. Inevitably, he'll go to Pittsburgh at 21, and he'll just join that tight end room and just be a disaster.
please
But we'll
no.
see.
And
At
then
six, oh, go
he
ahead.
had a great gauntlet too. So
There you
he had a
go.
great combine in general.
The Gauntlet Wizard approves. Yeah, I know the knock on Sadiq was that like like his yards per out run wasn't great and yada yada yada. Some people like Jamari Johnson at Oregon over him. I think that's much ado about nothing. Like Sadiq led
Yes.
the team in targets. He was really good. Like I think just don't overthink this one. At 106, I think this one will probably surprise people. I think most people will think Jordan Tyson, but I'm actually going to go Casey Concepcion. I really just don't believe in Jordan Tyson, and it's more that than it is I believe in Concepcion. But also like Concepcion had a good gauntlet. I think he's a good player. What he did at the combine, I think, kind of solidified that he's a good receiver. He's an easy guy to root for. I think he's a really good player. There's some speed upside too on kickoff returns that I think he can join and kind of add a little bit of value. And he's one of those guys too that I think like kind of like a Jameson Williams. Like he might not get a ton of like target volume, but he doesn't need a ton to house one. And I just think he's been pretty reliable his whole career. He had that one bad season at NC State, but the school is kind of a mess. He produced pretty much all 3 years as a true freshman. He came in, produced. He's been healthy all 3 years. Like I feel more comfortable with Concepcion than I do with Tyson. And the spot I'm at with Jordan Tyson is like I'm gonna let someone else find out if he's good or not. And if
And
I miss on him, so be it.
you just had to make that me tonight, didn't you?
I did. I did
But no,
have to
yeah.
do
So
it.
that's where I'm at now. Like I think this next probably well, I think 105 is pretty firm for me. I think I don't
Mhm.
know if I'd put Sadiq with the same bucket as Tate and Lemon. But I think there's a clear line between 105 and 106, right? And so I really haven't made up my mind exactly what I would want to do here. Like 106 down, but give me Jordan Tyson, right? I think I agree with you, right? I don't really want to be taking him. So, you know, but I think he's a good enough player that if the things, things shake out for him, if he doesn't get injured, things like that, it could go really well. But the red flags are there, like we talked about. And I'm on the same boat as you, right? I'd rather somebody else take him and I miss out. But I think this is like the latest we'll see him go. I think most
Yeah.
people will take him at 105, 106, right? And I think most people would take him over Tyson just because I think he's going to get drafted before Concepcion.
I do too, and I think 106 is like that's the spot where if Tyson's on the board, that's like I really don't want to be at. I want to try to trade out of it.
Yeah.
I looking at kind of who's around 106, I see Josh Jacobs. I would rather do that than take a shot on Tyson.
Agree 100%.
JMO is I probably would take the pick and like hope I could get more later.
Yeah.
Um, Luther Burden.
I'll take Burden.
I think I will too.
I know we
Although
both
I
hated
don't
him, but
love
I'll take Burden.
I don't love it, but at least he played well. Um, all right, so now I'm at 108. I'm gonna pull up my own rankings here to kind of get a feel for where I'm at.
Don't make me do what I think you're going to make me do.
I'm not gonna take this guy, but I am gonna take a guy who had a great combine. He's rising up quickly of draft boards. Eli Stellers out of Vanderbilt. There's talk that he might potentially sneak into the first round. I think worst case he's going to be kind of a top 50 pick, top of the second round. I love Eli Stellers, man. I think he has a chance to be one of the best tight ends in this class. I think these two tight ends are sensational in Sadiq and Stellers. Stellers, man, he produced at Vanderbilt in a place where the offense was that team was in a bad spot for a long way, and he produced a ton. He is one of the better like I think he actually had the highest prospect fest score of any of the tight ends, which you love to see. Now he's sneaking up draft boards. I think he's just going to be a really good player. The analytic comp I had for him was Sam Laporta. So like, and if he ends up being Laporta, you get him at 108. I think you're going to be pretty stoked, especially in tight end premium leagues. Is that who you thought I
Yep.
was going to take, or did that surprise you?
No, it didn't really surprise me. I was just looking at two different of my notes over here, and so I was thinking you were going to go Price, and then I was
I
going to be
understood.
left with having to pick Boston, which I don't want. But I'm gonna take Jadarian Price here.
You
I just
bastard.
think he's the second best running back in the class here. I know some people are super stoked on Mike Washington. I think he's fine. I think we're just going a little bit overboard on, he had a good combine. We talked about it last week. Don't overdo it, right? He had a good combine. Cool. That's one more piece to the puzzle. I think Jadarian Price, right, is going to be. There probably are guys that are going to be drafted ahead of him here that you could pick, but I think he's going to be a really good complement to a RB1, right? He'll be a really good RB2, and I think he actually could take over like a third down role or even like a red zone role, right? And so I think, that's going to result in touchdown points. I'll take that.
So Jadarian Price, I think if he had played anywhere besides at Notre Dame last year behind Jeremiah Love, I think he would be regarded a lot higher than he is. He's so good. Yeah, and yeah, I've seen a lot of mocks where he's maybe going to Detroit to kind of be the Montgomery replacement. I think he could go to Denver. I've actually seen him
Yeah.
mocked as high as like 30 to Denver, which I think it might be a little rich. I do think he's a second round player. I don't
Yeah.
know where yet. So keep an eye on that. Maybe he could go to Seattle. They
They're just
seem to
stockpiling all the mid
they want all the running
running
backs. They're
backs.
gonna have
Yeah.
just a roster of only running backs. Um, Wes asked a good question about how the top tight ends compared to last year. I think the way I would look at it, Sadiq and Stowers aren't as good as Warren and Loveland, and I think it's like those two
Oh
would
yeah.
be in a tier themselves. But then I think they would be next, right? And then I think those guys would be above like the Mason Taylors and the Harold Fannons and around a Gadsden's and those kind of guys. I know Gadsden especially was kind of a sleeper later. Um, but yeah, I don't think they're anywhere
Yeah.
near as good as Loveland and Warren, but like that doesn't mean they're bad. I think I would view them more as like kind of like the Dalton Kincaid kind of like where they went in that Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta class, kind of more in that vein rather than like Loveland and Warren, if that makes sense.
Agree
All right.
100%. Right. I would slide them in right below those two guys, right below Warren and Loveland as well, right? And I really I think Stowers is going to surprise people, right?
I do
You
too.
touched on it
He's
already,
good.
but he had a really, really, really good year.
Um, so I'm gonna do this just to piss you off and not take Denzel Boston myself, but I'm gonna take another guy who's been rising constantly. Omar Cooper, wide receiver out of Indiana. He's I think at this point he's gonna be a first round player. He ran really well at the combine. Supposedly interviews were really good on him. I didn't get a chance to watch his gauntlet, but I think from everything I read and I saw,
It
he
was good.
tested really well. He has a good production profile. Seems like teams really like him. At this point, I would be shocked if he didn't go in the first round. And I think his skill set is pretty unique. I could see. I don't believe in Denzel Boston as part of this, but I could see Cooper going to like San Francisco and kind of being their new Debo Samuel and doing really
Oh yeah.
well there. Maybe that's a lazy comp. I don't know, but I think Cooper's a really good player. And like at 110, this is where things are like you can kind of take like I think you could talk yourself into a lot of players here. Like honestly, these last like 3-ish picks, like you could probably put them in any order, or Denzel Boston, or um, we haven't talked about Ty Simpson. Yeah, I just saw his name got brought up in the chat, but um, he's definitely going to be in this area. It's a huge cluster, right, of guys where it's like you kind of pick your poison. It might be a spot where you might want to try to move down and maybe get like like a second or a third next year's draft pick to kind of move down a couple spots. Because then ultimately, right now, I don't think it matters too much. I think these guys are all pretty similar.
Sad, but you are correct. So, oh man, there's a lot of ways I could go here. Yeah, it's getting really gross.
While you think about this pick real quick, the other day I traded away the 112 for Jordan Addison, and I think I feel a lot better about that now than I did when I did it. Just kind of going through this exercise of like, I think Jordan Addison's still a good player, and he's kind of valued right around the 110, which is why I kind of brought that up. But anyways,
yeah, I think I would go Addison as well. I just I feel better about that. I'm gonna go Denzel Boston, right? I think, like you've talked about already, there's a lot of there's a big cluster of guys right now, right? And so I just think there is enough upside there to be like, yes, I'll go Denzel Boston. And today I don't have anything to kind of really pick one guy over the other. So right now, unfortunately, I'm kind of just going best player available out of the players that I don't really love any of them, right? So give me Denzel Boston.
Boston is like, he could either go the way of like Mike Evans or Keon Coleman, and there's not a lot of in between, right?
Correct.
And that's what scares me. Although at 111, like,
yeah, I mean,
your team's probably good enough you can survive the hit if you miss.
Yeah, and kind of to highlight that is like, you feel good if you traded, right? And you ended up, maybe even if you lost in the finals and you traded your 111, now you're looking at it and you're like, I'm only going to get maybe Denzel Boston or, other guys that could be there. And you're like, okay, cool. I feel good. Right. Like, I just don't think this year that it really tails off, like, as we get further away from these top 6, 7 players.
You're hoping at this point, like, that these guys can be solid, like, flex options more than they're going to be like solid, like, wide receiver 2s in your fantasy lineup, I think. Okay, so here's the thing. At 112, there's 2 players that I'm thinking about, and there's one that I really like, and then there's one that I don't, but one that I think is gonna get the draft capital, and I hate myself for clicking this button. But Ty Simpson, listen, there's a lot of quarterback needy teams. There aren't a ton of starting quarterbacks available and a lot of teams that need a quarterback. I think because of that, someone is going to draft him in the first round. I don't know who it'll be. It might be the Browns, and it might be the Jets. It might be a bad team, and it is what it is. But there is value in first round quarterbacks. We saw it with Jackson Dart. I don't think Ty Simpson is Jackson Dart. He's got the red flags. He only started the 1 year. The one thing I will say about Simpson is that he's a coach's son, so he's been around the game for a long time. I think he probably did really well in like the team interviews just because of that. There's questions about why did he play better at the first half of the year against Alabama than he did at the end of the year. Alabama's offensive line got really banged up. Not to make excuses for him. There's ways you can talk yourself into this, but the crux of it is, I think he will be a first round quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be good, but I think there's going to be opportunities where other people in your league will want to acquire him, and you'll have trade points where you can get out of them if you want. Whereas some of these other guys, especially pre-draft, like, I don't know where the draft capital is going to end up. It's a lot more varying. Ty Simpson, I think, will be. Honestly, if I'm in this spot though, like, obviously you can't trade your out of the pick for a mock, but like if I was in this spot, I would try to trade out of this pick. I
hate this spot. I'm trading. Sorry, it's a mock.
Yes, like I would trade. Like, honestly, if I was there, if I could get Malik Willis out of it, I would do that.
Yeah.
It gets dicey.
This reminds me of like Tyler Shuck, right? Imagine if Tyler Shuck got first round draft capital, you would have taken him at 111, 112, 201, 202. I would have taken him at 201.
That looks okay right now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And this is exactly the same thing, right? If he does go to Steelers or whatever, he's not a franchise quarterback, just a stopgap, right? So you're basically here you're banking on it, and kind of I'm doing the same thing with Boston, right? I'm banking on good landing spot that I can turn that around, and
Hmm.
somebody's like really cool on the hype, right? If I don't like a player, right? If I can't trade out of it, just pick the best value that maybe you think's gonna rise. Um, okay, so I'm getting a little. It's getting a lot
This is where
pickier
it gets
now.
ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that landing spot and situation, we're actually gonna iron this out so much better, right? But
Hmm.
you know, there's a man. I think I'm just gonna go with Chris Bell.
Okay.
I know that might be a little bit early, but I feel comfortable with like how he played, what I've seen, right? And so I just yeah, exactly drive for value, trade for need, easy enough, right? So I don't know, it gets really tough here, and so I'm just trying to find guys that I think could rise in value or could actually I could use, and so Chris Bell.
Chris Bell he's an interesting one in that so he's injured right now. For those of you who don't know, he tore his ACL in
Yeah.
late November. There was a lot before that news came out. There was a lot of buzz about him going in the first round, and so I think teams view him very highly. And I think there's still talk, frankly, of him going really high. He could potentially be like an early second round guy. I don't know how if he's going to be ready to go to start the season. He might be like a pup candidate, which a second round pick not producing early in the season isn't uncommon. The nice thing about that is that like when guys come off the pup like midway through the season, it creates a little bit of buzz. It might be a nice little selling point there. The 201, let's check in on some guys around where he's at. Interestingly enough, David Montgomery is there. I would take Montgomery over this. I would take
Yep.
Montgomery,
Monty.
honest to God, like 110, maybe even
Yeah. Especially.
109. I would probably take Montgomery over these guys. Like,
Yeah. I'm
I
surprised we
know I've
didn't
seen it. Yeah.
we didn't touch on the trade at all, but I think going to the Texans is going to be really good for Monty, right? And so
Yes.
I really don't think it's going to hurt really anything. I think he's going to slide in there nicely. He may get a little bit more volume, but no, yeah,
Mhm.
I'll take Monty straight at like 110. I'll take Monty over 110 for sure.
Like,
So
I'll take Monty there, 201. I'll take Christian Watson, he's kinda right there. Parker Washington, that's probably where I'm gonna have to draw the line.
yeah,
Um, but Christian Watson, I would do. I'm up. I'm gonna take my other wide receiver from Indiana, Elijah Surratt. I know there's been like a smear campaign on him lately about how like he can't get open on Twitter and like all of his targets are contested, yada yada yada. All I know is he produced for 4 years. He had a yards per route run of over 2.5 for his career. He was over two every single year, including his freshman year. Um, he scored a ton of touchdowns. He scored a lot of first downs. He's a good playmaker. He had the best quarterback rating when targeted of any wide receiver in the class. He had the highest prospect Fez score. I think he's just a good player. Some of the contested target stuff, I think that's just like lazy analytics. I think if you watch him, he's a good player. Some of that's a product of the offense. They kind of threw some of those like sideline back shoulder balls to him, which you inherently don't get a ton of separation on. That's kind of the design of the play. He came down with a ton of them. I think he's going to be really good. He's going to be probably my go-to in the second round,
oh yeah,
especially if people fade him. I don't think he's going to be. I think he's probably like a mid second round pick in the NFL draft, right? I don't think he's going to be like an early second. I don't think he's going to be a first round guy, but he's just a guy that I think he's a good player. Um, and yeah, at this point too, it's like find the guys that you believe in. Um, I like Surratt. He's a good player.
yep. I am gonna go with Zachariah Branch. I
Ugh.
know this might be a little bit of a surprise here, but I think he's gonna be if he lands on the right spot, he's gonna be fine. And like I said, I had him in my first rankings up at like 112, I think even 111.
Mhm.
So I think he's gonna be it has to be the right spot and he's gotta, work
He
up to it a little bit. But I don't know. I can't say it enough that right now they're just like pick the guy that you like and you think could rise in value. So if I was going to go with Surratt, if you didn't go there at 202, so and I
I
think I took Chris Bell over Surratt, just because I think if he's healthy, if he lands on the right spot, he could rise in value higher than Surratt could. But I think Surratt could give you production right away, right? And then same thing with Branch. And Branch actually, I think on any of those return yard uh, leagues, I think is
Hmm.
going to be pretty useful, right? So that's what I'm kind of thinking about there as well.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that too, but Jadarian Price was a really good kickoff returner. If you play in any leagues like that, so Concepcion, Price, and Zachariah Branch are really good returners.
Yeah.
So if any kind of leagues that have return yardage, those are going to be your guys that I would target. Um, Man, I don't like any of these players. Uh, I tell you what, I will go with, and thank God we still have like 2/3 of a
I
round
know.
left. I'm gonna go with Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC. I know he played opposite of Mekhi Lemon. I think he got overlooked a little bit because Mekhi Lemon was kind of the star of the show, but I think Jacoby Lane's a good player. He's kind of a bigger body guy as more of an outside receiver. He had a really smooth gauntlet. I saw some people kind of hyping him up. He ran pretty quick. He stayed in the straight line, kind of what I mean. I'm no gauntlet wizard like Holler over
It
here,
was
but
really good.
it looked pretty good to me. Um, I think what was his size? Hold on, I had it pulled up a second ago. Let me double check. Um, I should have had that
I'm
more
just
prepared.
I'm just looking at some of these rankings that we have, some other rankings, and man, it just gets ugly, right? Like
Yeah,
I I, I don't know. I feel like there was. I'm sure this has been like this every year, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of question marks here more than other years.
yeah. So Wayne, I got it pulled up. 6'4", 200, and he ran a 4.47. Pretty solid, I think. I think he's gonna be a really good wide receiver 2 on a team. It might be a nice flex play if he lands in the right spot, right? I think he could be not quite like a T Higgins, like that might be a bit of a stretch, but I think he could be, man, I don't know, like what's a T Higgins light?
Oh,
I'll, I'll just go with that. He could be a T Higgins
yeah,
light.
right.
I'll just
Yeah,
say that.
man, you're leaving with me some really good decisions here. Goodness gracious.
It's up to you.
Um, and the hard part is like I think you could go with a lot of different running
Mhm.
backs here. I just don't know if any of them are gonna pan out, right? Like I can make an argument for Mike Washington. I can make another argument for I think Jordan Coleman's going the wrong way, right? I think his value is dropping, not rising at all. I was
Mhm.
really big on Nick Singleton. But I think I'm gonna continue the wide receiver and go with Brazel. Uh,
Okay.
I like Chris Brazel a lot. I had him on a couple of my
Yeah.
C2C teams, right? And there's a lot of wide receivers that are kind of like in that same bucket as Brazil and Jacoby Lane and Branch and Surratt. I like his profile, like big body wide receiver, right? And the speed is there. So I think there's a lot of upside there.
Yeah. So I don't. Maybe this is helmet scouting a little bit, but some of these Tennessee wide receivers, I don't. Oh God, Wes. I don't really like Brazel. I don't see it. I don't know if he's this body type. We've seen this
Yeah.
not pan out. But I mean, at this point, too, like you're 205, like you're kind of taking a dart throw, unfortunately. So I don't fault you for that. I just,
And I still have a lot of question marks because one of his like biggest red flags are he struggles with press coverage, right? And so like
Mhm.
he so I agree 100%. There's so many like this is not a great pick, right? But at this rate, I'm trying to like a couple of comps I saw was like Christian Watson, and like if he could be somewhat of that, that's great. Nice value at 206, 205, I think. But a lot of question marks still, but I think the upside could be there.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely could be. Um, I'll take a wide receiver here that I don't necessarily like. Um, Actually, no, I'm gonna take a different one. I'm gonna take Antonio Williams here out of Clemson. I think he like. this time probably last year he was viewed pretty highly. I know he got banged up at Clemson this year, and Clemson's offense was a disaster. But like he was a Debbie darling for a while there,
Oh yeah.
at a Clemson. Like he's shown flashes when he's been on the field. There's just been a lot of injuries, a lot of concerns where he's just not on the field. Every time he's been out there, he's produced great. Um, I just don't. I mean, at this point, it just feels gross. Like taking some of these guys, I feel like we're saying this over again, but
Yeah.
like it just feels gross. Like, and then like at 206, like let's say some of the guys around them, like you could do Romeo Dobbs, you could do Kenneth Gainwell, Ramondre
Yeah, I
Stevenson,
think
Blake Corum. I think honestly, I would probably cash out on any of those guys.
totally. I think this year is like use your if you haven't done it already, right? I know a lot of other people in the fantasy space have said to trade up those late first and second round picks, right? And you're seeing it right now. And so there's a lot of guys that I'd probably rather have that are veterans or even like just a couple of years in that I'd rather have than these second round picks, right? But
Mhm.
I do think once all said and done, there's going to be some guys that do rise here. And yes, there was a little bit of hype from the combine, but I still think he's probably going to be the third running back off the board. I think he may not be the third best
Yeah.
one, but at this point, I'm going to have to go with the opportunity and the draft capital because I do think the draft capital is very big with running backs, right? And so I understand that last year we had Caleb Johnson, right? The second round, like of course nothing panned out, but I knew that ahead of time, right? Mike Washington is good, right? I think he produced at Arkansas 8 touchdowns, like just over 1,000 yards, and really good 6.4 yards per rush. So like he's done it, and he was really good. And so I have question marks, but I think where he's going to get drafted is good value right here.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I don't necessarily think that highly of Mike Washington.
Yeah.
But I think he will get drafted, a lot of it based on that 40 time. My concern with him is that like if you watch him play, that 4.33 speed doesn't show up.
Oh, not at all.
It just doesn't. And it's like, well, he runs great in a straight line. If he could play like it, that'd be sick. But alas, here we are.
And And I'm like
Yeah.
trying to think in my head, like, okay, would Mike Washington be the next guy up versus like a Nick Singleton and Jonah Coleman? Like, I think those guys actually might get pushed to like day 3 and 4, and like
Yeah.
Mike Washington might have an opportunity to go day 2, and that right there made the difference for me.
No, for sure. I actually think I'm gonna take, and I hate myself for this because I really don't like him. But I'm gonna take Nick Singleton here. I think here's the thing with him. Like he had a really good freshman year. He had a really good junior year. He had a crappy sophomore year. He had a crappy senior year. I'm not gonna hold this past year on him too much. Penn State itself was a disaster. Um, but like he definitely kind of took a step back, and then he got hurt right at the Senior Bowl. I do think though there's a role that Singleton could carve out. It's not going to be a every down player, but what he is a really good receiver. He has really good speed. He has the vision of like a Ray Charles, which so that's bad. But like he can actually run like legitimate like routes. Like he's a really good receiver out of the backfield. And if you block well for him, he's fast. He didn't run because he broke his foot at the Senior Bowl, so he didn't get to participate at the combine. He was there for interviews. I think I think a team's gonna take a shot at him at some point, and I think he has a skill set that might be useful at some point. And like at this point of the draft, like you kind of just have to take a shot on a guy, and I think he has some skills that I could get on board with, but um, yeah, I don't like love
Yeah.
it. I'm not like in
You,
love with them, but
you took it away from me, right? So I just think I loved Nick Singleton. Coming freshman year was outstanding. Sophomore year was
Mhm.
good, right? And so, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm not gonna hold it against him. But still, I don't like the like he's going the opposite way that we like to see. You want to get better every year, right? And so just
He
and
kind of does
running
it
backs
every other.
racking up more,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Just racking up more, carries is not good for a running back. So I'm gonna go Jonah Coleman here. right? I think he also, just like Mike Washington, could be day 2, right? And then, he won't go outside of day 3, so round 3 or 4, right? And so I just think there's question marks, right? I talked about it, as we both talked about it, I think. And so I, the speed's not there, obviously. So for me, he's
Very
a
slow.
a secondary guy, right? Not a main guy, right? And so I wish he was just a little bit bigger. But I think he has the ability to break tackles and things like that. So, and then also he does catch the ball well, right? So I just think if he lands in a good spot, he could rise up in value.
Yeah, wish he was a little bit taller. Wish he was a baller.
Yep.
I think Wes and then the chat asked who would you comp Singleton to? The analytic comp I have for him is Tyrone Tracy. He's a little bit bigger than Tracy is, but like as far as like a not an awesome runner, but a pretty good receiver, I think that fits decently
Yeah.
well. At 210, I'm going to start with some of these tight ends. There's a tight end I really like in Jack Endries. Played really well at Cal, went to Texas. There's a lot more competition there. Arch Manning kind of was up and down throughout the year, but I think Endries has a good skill set. I think he's a really good receiver. He was really good at Cal with Fernando Mendoza before they both transferred. There was kind of like it was like a weird. Cal had like a lot of like really good talent, and then there was just like a mass exodus. Mendoza
Yep.
injuries, Jaden Ott were all there, and then they all just bailed. Injuries, I thought he had an okay season at Texas this last year. I think he's gonna go probably like late third, maybe early fourth. He had a pretty decent Fez score. I think at this point too, like I'm going to take dart throws on tight ends, right? I just think they're probably going to serve the most value. We see these guys with like not great draft capital pop more than we do like wide receivers who get drafted on like the 3rd round, or running backs who get kind of day 3 draft capital. I think tight ends are where I'm going to start at the late second. That's where I'm going to start taking my bets, is on some of these tight ends. And Jack Andrews is a pretty good player. Let's see, the comp I had for him was like, well, that's unfortunate. Was Charlie Kolar out of Baltimore. They had similar Fez scores. That kind of belittled my point a little bit. I think Andrews is a better athletic profile than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's one. If he goes to a good spot where he has an opportunity to play, he could rise up the draft boards a little bit, I think. All right, Holler, last pick.
Love it. Ooh. Thought I knew, but let's see here. Let me double check mine.
It's tough.
Yes, it is. All right, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go Justin Jolly. Right, I was hoping that
like
you
Jolly.
didn't take Endries, but yeah, I'll take Justin Jolly. Super, athletic, solid tight end out of NC State, and I had a good year, right? And I just think this is a nice spot to take, I think, a shot on some of these tight ends, right? And one of these could, elevate depending on landing spot, of course. But I just think he's athletic enough to stay on the field, right? He can block well, and I think if the situation is there, or not situation, the opportunity is there, then I think he can stay on the field.
Yeah, I do too. Man,
Yeah, the chat's just distracting me tonight. I love it.
Yeah, dude, dude, Ron did like Charlie Kohler. That's funny.
Yeah.
Another tight end, I think he's gonna get drafted higher than people think. I think could be like a late second, early 3rd round guy. Max
I was
Clare
thinking
out of
about.
Ohio State. He was a Purdue originally, and then he transferred to Ohio State his last year. He produced a lot more he produced a lot more at Purdue than he did at Ohio State. Obviously, as you can imagine, the talent that he was playing with at Ohio State was significantly better. So it makes sense that his target share and everything kind of went down a little bit. I think he's more athletic than he gets credit for. He's another guy that just like he's gonna be kind of a dart throw. Let's see, who did I have him analytically come to? Eric All. Actually, I like that. Eric All was actually a good looking player out of Iowa before he got injured over and over again. I could see that working out. For context, to the 212 on Fantasy Calc. puts you in the AD Mitchell, Dallas Goddard, Travis Kelce, hope he doesn't retire range, which is not a good spot
No.
to be in. Eli Kyle Manor is kind of around that same spot too. Like, I mean, at that point,
Yeah, I mean,
dude, shoot, you just take a dart throw and hope one of them doesn't suck.
yeah, I think some of this might get, ironed out much better as we get closer to draft day, right? So if you do have any drafts before actual draft day, I think it will
Yeah,
shake out a little in this, right? But as you can see here, there's a lot of question marks, right? We don't feel great about any of these in the second round. I think we've talked about that already. Probably beat it to a dead horse, right? And so I, I, I just feel like you can probably do a lot better by trying to trade your picks away this draft class than going and trying to find a good
yeah,
player that's going to be productive.
yeah. And then just the highlights, some names we didn't draft. Emmett Johnson. I know he's a popular one out
Mhm.
of Nebraska. He
He was
tested
when I
extremely poorly. I know, Holler, you liked him. I had him comp to Caleb Johnson. I didn't, not a huge fan. Um, Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. He
yeah, I was
ran
gonna
pretty slow. I I don't know. He feels more like he's going to be a good real life player more so than he's going to be a
yeah.
fantasy player. Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. He's kind of a smaller school guy. He's fast. Jeremy Bernard. I think he's going to get. There's talk about him potentially being drafted in the second round. I don't think he's that good.
Agreed.
Guys like Skylar Bell out of UConn. I know he kind of got steamed up a little bit at the not the Senior Bowl, but the other one that they do, the Under Armour Bowl, I think. There's some other running backs in terms like Roman Hemby out of Indiana, Katron Allen, the other Penn State running back. I mean, some of these guys
One,
maybe. I don't
and
know.
I'm thinking there might be one quarterback that could sneak in there if they go in the second round, like
Like a
I don't
Nussmeier.
even know, but maybe Nussmeier. That was the one that, yeah. So Nussmeier, and then these are way down the line, but I know Klubnik had an okay day at the combine. I know Drew Aller had an okay day at the combine, but again,
You can't quit, Drew.
always got to cautious with when they're just throwing the ball with the shorts on. Okay, so those two guys had a good day. So I'm just saying there could be a quarterback that slips, that rises up and you could grab in the second round. Those are all going to be backups, most likely. Nussmeier is one that could possibly be a starter. But the others, I said, I mean, it's a possible if the situation works out great, but I don't believe in Drew Allard anymore, unfortunately.
And then we should probably bring it Taylor Green. Set like
Yes. Yeah.
incredible, like athletic pro. He ran like crazy. His only defect, he would be a great quarterback if he could throw the ball. He's so fast. He's big.
Yeah.
He's fast. He's like wide receiver fast, not just like fast for a quarterback.
He was a CFF darling, college
Yep.
football fantasy.
He started at Boise State and then went to Arkansas. He was a monster. And if you played any kind of props on like underdog, like he almost always hit the over on his rushing total because the dude
Yep.
he's a
And
beast.
that's one thing to say about Mike Washington, right? Is he played with Taylor Green, right? And so he took away a lot of his running, right? So,
Right.
not to boost him up even more, but I just think,
Fair. One counter argument is that defenses had to account for Taylor Green instead of Mike Washington. But we'll
I think
see.
we're splitting
We'll
hairs
see.
here.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, I think the larger point is like I'd say after about where did we get to? About 202 here with like Surratt, it starts getting like
I would say
getting
even Chris
kinda
Bell.
gross.
Just
Even
second
Chris
round.
Bell, yeah, that second round, it kind of starts getting worse. Like I feel really good, like 105 up. I feel okay, 106 to like 111, 112. I feel like okay to good adjacent. And then I feel like it's questionable. And then I want to throw up making these picks. So do with that what you may. And yeah, Claiborne too. He ran really fast. He's small though. He was very small.
Very small. Yeah.
Measurements were like his RAS score because of it was like a little questionable. But He also got injured a lot at Wake Forest, but I'm sure someone will draft him. And it only gets worse from here in the third round. My thought is there are no bad third round picks. You just take a guy that you kind of believe in that might have a path, and chances are most of them are going to get on the waiver wire after about a year or two because they are just no good. But next week we have free agency. Should be a fun show. Hopefully we get some good fantasy landing spots, but we'll be here to break it all down and kind of see where the chips fall. A lot of good news coming out next week. It should be an exciting time. Thanks again for tuning in. Join the Discord. Join the Patreon. It means a lot. It starts at $5. That's all we got for tonight.
Let's go.
Peace out, everybody.